Installment of the JB Web Show. I am, of course, I'm stammering a little bit due to the fact that we have a really exciting interview on the line. He is an individual who has permeated the Central Florida area and the Southeast, in my opinion. His radio program is legendary. He himself is legendary, and that's why we're dubbing this a Local Legend Supreme, the only one of its kind episodes. I have the one and only Jim Phillips on the line, and let me give a proper introduction. For the last 20, 30 years, this gentleman has been contributing to Central Florida's well-being in the form of activism through the power of broadcasting. He has spearheaded many different platforms and causes that are ultimately for the good of Central Florida. You can hear him on WTKS Orlando, nationwide on iHeartRadio. He has that drive time spot locked down now for the past few decades, and I am so proud to introduce and welcome to our humble little effort here, the one and only Mr. Jim Phillips. Welcome, sir. How you doing?
Thank you very much. Great accolades. Man alive. I wish my staff would say nice things about me. Like that was terrific.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much, man. It's the way I started was in a radio back a while ago, and then I left it and came back to it. So I really want to give you a huge congratulations for doing what you've done for so long, with the, radio kind of having a dip there, a few years ago, and now is really kind of coming back. But you've held strong in that position, that drive time slot on FM, over 50,000 watts, hitting people, and you've just touched so many important topics here in Central Florida that it's very well deserved. So no problem at all there. I guess.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say.
It's my pleasure, and I know that really wasn't a question. So let me put my fake press hat on here, and let me. What I think is interesting, there's a lot of information about how you kind of came into where you are right now, some biographies and things like that. But I'd like to hear maybe a little bit about your youth. I know you had it looks like you intended to go maybe into military school, something like that, and then. So was there anything in your younger years that you had a keenness towards radio? Like myself, I love Paul Harvey. So any kind of thing like that harkens back to younger years before the military?
To be honest, not at all.
Not
at all. When I grew up outside of New York City, north of New York City, my father was in the broadcasting business on the sales side. He worked for NBC in New York back in the 50s and early 1960s until we moved to Miami. But there is no, I want to be just like my dad and be in the broadcast industry. I had no intention whatsoever.
Nothing like that at all.
I wanted to be in the military, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Because my cousin Freddie attended West Point, and West Point was not too far away from where we lived, and we were to a certain degree like a surrogate family. When he got time away from West Point, he couldn't spend time with the family, and I'm was 6, 7, 8 years old. I thought this was the greatest thing.
Yeah.
And in uniform, and we go to West Point. So I mean, in that era that I grew up in, a certain age of innocence. You play war games as a kid and do all that kind of stuff, and this is really what I wanted to do. I went to military school in Miami.
Yeah.
After my father took a job down there, and it wasn't a great experience scholastically. Certainly not a great experience. I probably learned how to march pretty well and do a couple of other things, but scholastically not so good.
Right.
And for one reason or another, probably because standards were a lot lower at the University of Florida, I gained entrance to Florida. And still no designs on, I wasn't ready for college at all.
Right.
At all. I wasn't prepared for college. college that I fell into the radio business because my roommate had got a job at the student station, and I would just go there with him all the time and just sit there, and finally just kind of wormed my way into, a couple of hours on the air. But it wasn't one of those, geez, this is what I really want to do. Okay. It's never been what I really want to do. It's James Garner, the actor who just passed away recently, essentially stated he never wanted to be an actor. It's just what he fell into, and it helped pay the bills. Right. And I tell people it's, being in radio beats working for a living. And just kind of, it's being in the right place at the right time. A little bit of luck, maybe a little bit of talent, surrounding yourself with good people, and then the rest is gravy.
Right. Well, no, that's good insight, and I think too, what interests me is your particular personality, and whether take this as a compliment. You kind of have a great bulldog type of personality, where it's like, I got a heck of a bark, but you don't want me to bite. Kind of a thing. So is that kind of been your personality, or did that form kind of being on the radio more and more? Because so that's kind of more insight into your particular personality.
Well, I was a reporter for a decade and a half. I was a radio reporter / journalist, and I learned the trade, and I think I assumed a high level of integrity because I was taught by people with high levels of integrity in the news business, both in print and electronic. And then by chance, by luck, I fell into this talk thing. But when I started to talk, most of the talk was pretty serious talk.
Right.
And a lot of things that people were talking about on the radio, I was not intellectually at that level. And so when I would go on the air, some of my first programs were, hey, what am I going to talk about? I'm not equipped to talk about at that time, let's say the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Why even try that? Right. And I remember one of my first things on the air, I said, I'm in my bed the other night, and I'm watching the ceiling fan go around.
Yeah.
And it's going around and around and around. If you stare at that ceiling fan long enough, it'll start going. It'll look like it's going the other way.
Right.
Like in those just like in those Western movies with the stagecoach.
Right.
Those old black and white John Wayne movies, and all of a sudden you see the stagecoach going right to left, but the wheels seem to be going backwards. Why is that?
Right.
Lights they blew up. I mean, the lights on the telephone blew up.
Yeah.
From that moment, it was, I guess relating to the audience in that way. And then here and there, some issues would come up, and I'd be more of a bulldog about it.
Yeah, well, and that's great that you mentioned that, because that's really what I meant by that, is getting things done through the damn invisible airwaves. You've been amazing. You have a stellar history of that, whether people give you the credit for it or not. You really have brought a lot to the table here, especially in Central Florida. When you kind of get behind a cause, what's a good cause to you? We could go back and talk about 10 years ago, before the arena was built or what have you, and getting behind that. There are particular politicians that you've gotten behind that really given a lot of juice to. As time passes, I-4 corridor is an important voting metric, across the nation. So the interesting thing is, are those other things you kind of just fell into, or were those relationships, or where does that instinct come to say this is the right thing and this is what we should be doing?
I think it's my Irish temper. I got a very short fuse, and I do have a temper. I operate viscerally off my gut, many times to my detriment. And the radio allows me to utilize my alter ego. I'm not like this in private life. I'm not a bull in the china shop. I'm not a particularly aggressive person in public. I'm not physically imposing, but I at least in my mind have a level of things that I see that are tantamount to injustice or just wrong or not fair.
Right.
And I like to stand up for things. I don't like people to be pushed around. I don't like big people pushing little people around.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, little people have no voice. There's literally no voice to counteract, getting screwed. So when I see somebody getting screwed, I like to say maybe I'll come to their defense as best as I can. I can't carry the whole world on my shoulders, but I certainly can here and there take and at least make people see here's my side and here's why I think it's unfair and here's why we ought to do something about it.
Well, you've got a hell of a record of getting behind the side of right, let's say. Well, it kind of makes me think too that if you don't do radio forever, in my mind, what I would love to see would be, and now on Judge Jim, I would love, like, if you could get a judge show where you're the judge, I would love to see that. I would watch that every day.
Here's what I tell people, because I'm closing in on the end of this career. I've been in radio since 1968.
That's
I've
incredible.
been in Orlando since 1972.
Yeah.
Been doing talk radio going on about 26 years now, and I'm reaching a point in my life where I'm just getting kind of tired of it. I've got a lot of things on my plate that I'm interested in that have nothing to do with radio.
Right.
And I tell people when I finally, say that's it, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to take one of the microphones out of the studio and I'm going to start traveling around the world, in the United States and the rest of the world, and the first person who says, as they point to the microphone I have in hand, they say, "What's that?" That's where I retire. That's where I settle. That's where I put down stakes for the rest of my life. I mean, it's a metaphor of some sorts, but
right.
I've got people say, "What are you going to do when you retire? Are you going to miss it?" And I said, "Yeah, probably a little, but I've got so many things that interest me. I flit from this thing to that thing to this hobby to that hobby to I entertain myself very well."
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Well, and again, I mean, all the activity that you do is really commendable as far as, mentoring younger people, trying to go into causes like you enjoy kind of the cowboy lifestyle, which is great. The beauty of horses and things like that. So, I mean, I think whatever you do, it definitely will be something that makes you happy, and that can also potentially bring joy to people. But I'll still put in the call to Judge Judy then, because I'd love to see you in a robe telling people what's what every day on TV. That'd
be happy. My wife says, when Jimmy's not happy, nobody's happy. And my staff can back me up on that statement. If I'm in a bad mood, a foul mood, just in a mood, then nobody's happy. So,
well,
my goal as I go into the rest of my life is to be happy and stay as happy as I can.
Well, listen, I'll kind of move it into something a little bit different. Since you've kind of seen a good cross section for almost 3 decades now in radio broadcasting, at the earlier you had to really research stories. Now there's stories pouring in. You're getting text alerts and all this stuff on your phone. People can text into the show and all this. Has that changed for you? Has it changed the dynamic of the show in the sense of you're getting information quicker?
Yeah, I mean, we get information quicker, and so do the callers.
Right.
To a certain degree, that's the problem of too much information, and then you have to determine what is factually correct.
Right.
And, of course, in this digital age that we're in, with so many bits and bytes flying around, whether it's Wikipedia or tweet,
right.
People take that as gospel, as the truth. This is why newspaper people pull the hair out of their head, because there's a process in the legitimate print media of reporter, editor, another editor, fact checker, editor, before it ever goes to print. A lot of this other stuff is just somebody at a keyboard, and here's my thought, and boom, it goes online. And there are too many people out there that take it as the truth or take it as gospel. We're just overloaded with information. Plus, technically, the business is changing so much. I tell
right.
people, I get interns in here, and I say, and they love it because it's fun.
Yeah.
I say, if you want a career, if you're thinking about a career in quote commercial radio, you're out of your mind, because commercial radio, as I know it, not what you do, but as
right.
I know it, I don't think will exist in 2 decades. I think it's on its. It's just going by the wayside.
Yeah.
Can't compete. mean, you can't compete against you. You can't compete against digital media. A couple of $1,000. Anybody can set up their own personal radio station, which is great. I think that's wonderful. Yeah. But we can't. Ad revenue is going online, so to speak, and I think we're going to be around here twiddling our thumbs. Unfortunately, people in commercial radio don't. They don't want to admit it.
Right. Well, there's that.
They won't admit it. I'm the only one who tells them the truth.
Well, yeah, that's because you can say whatever the hell you want. But yeah, that kind of show and tell radio now is almost what exists now. Like, we'll talk about something and go to our website and see it. I mean, that's the big thing, I think, with terrestrial radio is that, yeah, we can talk about it all till we're blue in the face, but when people want to go see it and check it out, which I guess kind of segues nicely into the fact that you do Phace the Phile live. This is a live show you do out at City Walk. It's awesome. You play all those awesome games that you made up and you play on your show. So I'm curious about the format of that, and I think that's probably truer to what the original, the Philips Phile was, let's say even 10 years ago, where you're kind of sequestered into your radio or in that room, and you can't go cheat and look on your phone for answers and things like that. You have to rely on what's in your head. So do you see the longevity of some of those kind of games or some of those kind of things that you and your team created to kind of live on in maybe another form? Or is there a board game? Is there a board game?
Or whoever, yeah, it could be, or whoever takes over from me continues with something like that. The fact is, if I chose to talk about things on the radio that I'm interested in on, let's call it an intellectual basis, really get down deep about talking with various things, I wouldn't have much of an audience because people just don't operate that way. They just don't, for the most part. They don't have the time, nor maybe the inclination to think really deeply. People think deeply usually at the first couple of minutes when they wake up, or the last couple of minutes before they fall asleep. Other than that, they just don't have time for it. Right. So games are a method of connecting to an audience. It's a way of getting ratings. It's a way of getting people involved, and people can relate to that. They can listen to a game and play against me on the radio. They're not going to call and play because they're terrified. But they can play against the speaker. They can play against the voice coming out of the speaker.
Right.
And it's easy and it's fun. And it takes their mind away. Either they had a bad day with their boss, they know they're gonna go home and have a fight with their kids, or fight with their wife, or some whatever. So for a few minutes they get to maybe compete against me or somebody else, and maybe even win in their own mind.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a way to fill time.
You started giving out those I beat Jim closest to the pin type of certificates, right?
Yeah, there aren't too many of those, I might add. There aren't too many people who beat me, and it's not because I cheat. I mean,
no.
I tell people on the air, you can accuse me of being a lot of things, but I'm not a cheater.
No.
I'm a wealth of knowledge. I'm not terribly intelligent, but I've been around for a while, and I do a lot of reading, and I do and I just suck all that stuff in. So I'm a jack of all trades, master of none when it comes to information.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're a local legend supreme in our humble effort over here. You really are. The team you've got together, you all have a great synergy, a great dynamic. It sounds good. I love how everybody's okay to poke fun at each other. So kind of in closing, maybe share with me what you and Moira have been together, I guess, the longest. You went through a couple internal changes, but
right.
How important is that to kind of have the right people in the room, the right energies or what have you in the room?
I think it's key to one of the major keys to success is surrounding your people who, to a certain degree, do things a lot better than you do.
Right.
And I've been very fortunate in being able to do that. Sometimes they drive me absolutely crazy. I tell Mo, I can't imagine being married to you. If I was married to you, I'd be on death row by now. And a lot of it, you realize you spend more time with people who you work with than you do your own family.
Right.
So there are tensions sometimes, but overall, it's. I tell them all, look, I can do the show by myself. I used to do it by myself.
Yeah.
But they help out. it's a key to any success in business is to surround yourself with people who will tell you maybe you don't want to do that, maybe you don't want to say that, maybe you don't want to go in this direction or that direction.
Right.
Here I have some advice.
Right.
It's the people who fail at business who refuse to take any advice from the people who they hire. And basically, a lot of times people hire people who are incompetent because they're afraid of being challenged because they think those people will take their job.
Sure.
Now, they want my job. Go for it. You can have it. Just go down the program director, make your case. I know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
well,
good luck with that.
Well, you're definitely one of a kind. You're definitely a huge part of Central Florida, a huge part of the Southeast, and radio in general. You've been doing this for a good long time. That really gives you the edge in my book. I just admire what you do, and I want to just say, however long you want to keep doing it, we're going to keep listening. So, thank you.
We're going to try to give it a couple of more years. But
yeah, that's awesome.
Telling a colleague of mine just a couple of minutes before I started talking with you, I said, there comes a point where I might just take the earphones off and put them on the mic and just stand up and say, that's it, I'm out of here. And as a matter of fact, it almost happened yesterday.
Oh my God!
It almost happened.
Really?
Yeah, it certainly did.
Well, I know whatever happens there will be interesting, and you're driving the boat, man. You're the captain. You literally are the captain. Hey, will you ever bring back what you hauling? That's another question.
I don't know. I think some guys in South Carolina stole that bit from
I
they can.
Oh, you're gonna let them keep.
We heard it. Some caller said there's some guys in Savannah or whatever.
Yeah, that was a great bit.
Excuse me, but some South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina said, yeah, they're doing that what you hauling thing. I said, that was our bit. I mean, I admit to stealing bits here and there, but they stole that from me. Yeah, well, they can have it.
You and your group have brought a lot of originality, a lot of change, and it's anyone who just calls you a radio host, you're really an activist. You've really done a lot for our community. So on behalf of everybody who's been listening to you for years, I thank you so much for chatting with us on our show, man. And again, we just want to wish you the very best in everything that you do moving ahead, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Very kind of you.
My pleasure. We're speaking with the one and only Jim Phillips, 3 to 7, WTKS Orlando, nationwide, anywhere in the world, iHeartRadio. He's got to go hustle and get live on the air for 3 o'clock, 3:01. That's when the fun starts. Jim, thanks again for being on the call, man. And any words of wisdom you might want to give to me personally?
No, just hang in there. Do what you do, and the rest is the gravy. Do what you love, and money will follow. And if the money doesn't follow, you're at least doing what you love.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're speaking with Jim Phillips, the one and only. I am JB Webb. I can't believe I got that phone call. That just happened. It's recorded, so we'll see you the next time. Hang tight, people. Mr. Phillips, thank you so much.
You got it, JB. Anytime, anything I can do.